are back in our chambers, which feels like home. So I'd like to call us to order. Nobody this evening will be participating electronically in the meeting. Ms. Hall, will you do the roll call like we usually did?
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Chase.
Here.
Ms. Hazard.
Here.
Ms. Healy.
Here.
Ms. Hollerback.
Here.
Ms. Randall.
Here.
Dr. Warner.
Here.
And Ms. Young.
Presente.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Before, we're going to do our Pledge of Allegiance that we always had done. So if you all will rise with me, and we will engage in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will be moving on to the approval of the agenda. I'm going to recognize Ms. Randall for the 2 amendments.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda with the following amendments. I would like to move the consent agenda currently numbered 10.01 through 10.05 to right after proclamation to become the new agenda items 5.01 through 5.05, and to add a closed meeting to the end of the meeting to discuss a proposed contract addendum to the superintendent's contract as authorized by Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1 and Virginia Code Section 22.1-69.
Second. All right, that's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously with the amendments as noted. We will move on to our proclamation, which I'm going to have Ms. Healy read as the member of our Health Advisory Committee.
Thank you, and also as a sister of 4 nurses, 2 of whom have children who are nurses. A proclamation to recognize May 12th, 2021 as National School Nurse Day. Whereas students are the future, and by investing in them today, we are ensuring our world for tomorrow. And whereas families deserve to feel confident that their children will be cared for when they are at school, and whereas all students have a right to have their physical and mental health needs safely met while in the school setting, and whereas students today face more complex and life-threatening health problems requiring care in school, and whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has emphasized the essential role school nurses play in student health and academic success, and whereas school nurses have served a critical role in improving public health and in ensuring students' academic success for 100 years, and whereas school nurses address the home and community factors, for example, social determinants that impact students' health, and whereas school nurses support the health and educational success of children and youth by providing access to care when children's cognitive development is at its peak, and whereas school nurses are members of school-based teams, for example, school health services, 504/IEP, disaster/emergency planning, to address the school population, and whereas school nurses understand the link between health and learning and are in a position to make a positive difference for children every day. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the School Board of Stafford County hereby designates May 12th, 2021 as National School Nurse Day throughout the school division. Adopted by the School Board of Stafford County on this 27th day of April, 2021.
Thank you, Ms. Healy, and thank you to all of our nurses and those who support our nurses. This has been an incredible year for our nursing staff, and you all have certainly risen to the occasion and more. So I'd like to thank you all on behalf of the board. Moving on, we will be moving to our consent items based on the change to the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve consent agenda.
It's been moved and seconded. Any deletions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the approval of our 5 consent items, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Because of the nature of the consent items, there are some that regard personnel that we would like to make some announcements this evening. So I am going to turn it over, I believe, to Dr. Kisner to potentially do some introductions if he is online. There he is.
Yes, I am. Thank you. I'm going to do one of the three, but I'm going to ask Mr. Fulmer and Dr. Greider. They're going to do it brief, but I think it's important that they introduce two new administrators. Chris?
Thank you, Dr. Kisner. Good evening, board members. I want to introduce our new Executive Director of Transportation and Fleet Services. Mr. Baldwin is the school board's appointment for Executive Director of Transportation and Fleet Services. Mr. Baldwin comes to us from Prince George's County, Maryland Public Schools, where he has served as Transportation Supervisor. Prior to his employment in Maryland, Mr. Baldwin was the Transportation Director in Suffolk Public Schools, Virginia, and Currituck County, North Carolina. Mr. Baldwin has an extensive background in education, having served as an assistant principal, director of student services, safe school coordinator, and middle school teacher. Mr. Baldwin holds a Bachelor of Science degree in biology from Fayetteville State University. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Baldwin to Stafford County Public Schools.
Please stand up.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard, literally. So, all right, Dr. Greider, I believe you are next.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Kisner and Dr. Jones. It is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Eric Underhill as the principal of Shirleyheim Middle School. Mr. Underhill currently serves as the assistant principal at Swanson Middle School in Arlington, Virginia. Prior to that, he was the instructional technology coordinator and served as administrative intern at Carlin Springs Elementary School, a Title I elementary school in Arlington, Virginia. Mr. Underhill began as a world geography teacher, where he served as a team leader as well. Mr. Underhill also had experience as an online facilitator, virtual lead teacher, and he's taught at all 3 levels. During his tenure as assistant principal, Mr. Underhill led school-wide efforts that closed disproportionate gaps in student discipline, increased achievement for students identified as at risk, and redesigned the service model for Level 1 through Level 4 English language learners. As an instructional technology coordinator, Mr. Underhill authored and received a $20,000 Verizon Educational Foundation Innovative Learning Grant. He also co-authored a 21st Century Community Learning Center grant for $150,000. Mr. Underhill received a master's degree in educational leadership from George Mason, a master's in secondary education from American University, and a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Delaware. Most recently, Mr. Underhill has been participating in the Comprehensive Certificate Program in School Management and Leadership, taught jointly by the Harvard University School of Business and the Harvard Graduate School of Education. We welcome Mr. Underhill to Stafford County.
Please stand up, Mr. Underhill. Thank you.
Did I hear he's filling in Garrisonville? Is that what I heard?
Shirley Heim.
Oh, that's another. Okay, sorry, I made a mistake.
Welcome aboard, and thank you for coming this evening. Now, Dr. Kisner, am I turning it over to you for our final announcement appointment this evening?
Yes, it's a great honor to really introduce someone we all know. He goes by a lot of different names, but I'm going to call him Mr. William Boatwright. He has accepted the position to be the administrative principal at the Phoenix Learning Center. Everyone knows that Mr. Boatwright has been the principal at AD Middle School for the last 17 years, started as an AP at Brook Point High School, and has also worked at Fredericksburg City's public schools. I will tell you that interviewing Mr. Boatwright on Sunday, I never met someone more passionate, looking forward to working with the students and families at Phoenix Learning Center, and I welcome him, I congratulate him. So.
Congratulations to all of you, and also thank you for coming this evening. If you're going to stay, you're going to get to hear some wonderful presentations this evening for the next bit. We're going to start with our recognitions of our Teachers of the Year. Let's see who's coming for, oh, excellent, come on down, and we'll get that started.
Good evening, Chairwoman Hazard, school board members, Dr. Kisner and Dr. Jones. Annually, each school recognizes a teacher who demonstrates a devotion to students and staff and a passion for his or her craft. Traditionally, these Teachers of the Year are celebrated at a ceremony, but unfortunately, the pandemic has not allowed us to gather this year. Tonight, we conclude our video series recognizing all the Teachers of the Year for our schools. At the end of the video, we will announce the SCPS Teacher and Principal of the Year.
Coach Brooks is an institution at H.H. Poole and throughout Stafford County. Many times parents come through and talk to us about what an impact Mr. Coach Brooks has had in their lives, because he was their teacher 30 years ago. And Coach Brooks is very passionate about what he does with his kids and what he does and how he runs his classes. He's often here many times over the weekends and on, late in the evenings, working on activities, planning extra activities throughout the school year for the students to participate, because he wants to teach them about what it means to have a healthy lifestyle and enjoy competition. And so he's very passionate about his kids. If you look around the building, you'll see Coach Brooks' legacy. He's taken a picture of every child who participates in his activities and has gotten a medal, a trophy. He is very proud of his students that come through these buildings and participates in these activities. He even keeps in touch with many of them as they go on to high school, as they go on to college in some cases, and in one case he's still in touch with some of them that are playing professional sports. Coach Brooks is very passionate about his students and the legacy that he has in Stafford County.
Hi, my name is Mike Brooks. I've been teaching here in Stafford County this is my 42nd year. It's been quite a journey. I originally moved down here from Long Island, New York. So many, many years ago, I was able to come down, get my first teaching job, and I'm proud to say that I've always taught in Stafford County my whole life. Okay, I've never been to another county but good old Stafford County. I enjoy my students. I enjoy this school, H.H. Poole. It's been an honor to be chosen as Teacher of the Year. I put a lot of time and work in over my years, but I was very proud that I was able to get this award. I feel honored, humble. It's quite a thing. After all these years of dedication and working hard, it's just nice to be recognized. Mr. Bingham runs a very good school here. We enjoy our students. We have Mustang pride, and it's been wonderful. My journey has been a long one, but I always enjoy coming to work every day. I pride myself in coming to school and giving my best effort as a teacher, and hopefully the students will respond and give their best effort on any day. This year has been a little different, obviously, with virtual learning, but we're getting it done. We're having a lot of fun with the students now that they're back in the building. And the first several months we taught from behind the screen. Being an active person myself, it was kind of difficult to transition into sitting and talking for 3 hours, but I've made the transition, and now that the students are back, it's been wonderful. Not seeing the faces of the kids and interacting like we have done in the past. So far, this year will continue to be a good one. We'll do our best to make sure the students get a good education, whether they're here or at home, and I enjoy everything I've done in this building. In this hallway I'm standing in, I put a lot of time into a lot of our posters and recognizing students from previous years that have done a wonderful job, whether it be sports or PE activities or whatever. Hoops for Heart. Everything that we've done here is for the students, and this hallway here, this reflection is something that I always wanted to accomplish. I didn't start doing this till about 15 years ago, but it is what it is. It's a wonderful thing. Students come back and they like to look at the pictures. They pull out their cell phones. They take pictures of, those good old days when they were in middle school. So it's kind of fun for me to have them come back and visit and also see a lot of things that they did back when they were in middle school. I am enjoying my time once again. I'd like to thank Mr. Bingham and Ms. Limerick, Ms. Foreman, for recognizing me as a staff member here, and I will continue to do my best day in, day out. I pride myself on perfect attendance. I don't think I've missed a day in several years now, so I'm happy that I have good health and I'm able to report to work every day and do my job to the best of my ability.
It's my honor to recognize Brian Zardazet as Mountain View High School's Teacher of the Year. Brian stands about 6'4", and I think his heart's just as big as his height. The reason he was nominated was by his peers, and his peers recognized him for all he does for kids. He's a special educator, has a caseload, and he truly goes above and beyond for every student that he comes in contact with. You can see Brian here late at night working with students, weekends working with students, trying to help them pass tests, trying to help them pass their SOLs, trying to help them pass class, doing whatever it takes to help students be successful. And he's recognized by his peers for that because they all see how hard he works. His heart is just as large as his height, and for that, he's our Teacher of the Year.
If I had to choose one word to describe being selected Teacher of the Year, I would say I feel honored. There are so many amazing faculty in this building deserving of this award, so for them to think of me this way is really special. My approach to teaching is student-centered. To me, the key is to build meaningful relationships with my students, which would promote to connect with them on a more personal level. I feel this is a difference maker. By making these genuine connections, we can identify strengths and weaknesses and together work to achieve goals that they may not have felt comfortable doing if we didn't have such a connection. Students who believe and know that you believe in them will give you everything they have. Their struggles become your struggles. Their successes become your success. As far as working at Mountain View High School, I would say the best thing about working here is that we are one group. We work together. We build relationships, and we model those relationships for our students. I would like to thank the Mountain View staff and faculty for this nomination. It means the world.
Here at HES, we have a strong commitment to team. Team Heartwood is our motto and belief system in which we all pick each other up, support one another, and are there to ensure that we are all moving in the same direction together as one. When thinking of this year's nomination, this team mentality had a strong influence on our decision. This past year was one in which we haven't seen the likes before. It has thrown many obstacles in our paths, it's forced us to make abrupt changes, and has opened our eyes to things we never thought possible. None of our teachers could have imagined a time in which they would be delivering their instructions solely in a virtual manner, or teaching from anywhere other than in their classrooms. But that's exactly what they have done this year, and they have done it all while making incredible sacrifices. They have grown professionally in ways they've never thought imaginable. And as always, they have and continue to demonstrate that Team Heartwood spirit in all that they do. For these reasons and so much more, HES was proud to announce that it would recognize each and every one of its teachers as their 2021 Teachers of the Year. We couldn't be more proud of the hard work, determination, and commitment that they have put into making this school year the best possible for their students. Again, HES congratulates all of their teachers as their 2021 Teachers of the Year.
My name is Nick Roman. I'm the principal here at Rocky Run Elementary School, and we are very excited and honored to announce Miss Nina Passmore, our Instructional Technology Resource Teacher, as this year's Teacher of the Year for Rocky Run Elementary. When I think about Nina and her service here at Rocky Run, three words really come to mind. And the first one is teacher. Nina is a teacher at heart, every day and always, with her efforts to make teaching and learning the best possible experience here at school. So she's always a teacher. The second word I think of is learner. Despite her vast knowledge in the technology world and instructional technology, this year obviously has created great challenges and great opportunities for virtual and online learning. And as a result, Nina has had to learn many new tools and new ways and new approaches to meet the needs of not only students, but of teachers. And so that's been a process, and she's taken it head on, and she's just been an exceptional professional in terms of being the learner that we want to model for staff and students. And finally, the third word that I would say is leader. Nina realized quickly that she was just one person who was being asked to do a lot, and she couldn't do it alone. So she was quick to bring people together, to bring a group of colleagues together, professionals from Rocky Run Elementary, paraprofessionals, teachers, and really empower them and to build their competencies, build their capacities, to march forward and just tackle the efforts that were necessary to bring online teaching and learning to life. She did that naturally, and very quickly she had a huge group of followers just following her lead. So teacher, learner, and leader. Not only are we excited to announce Nina Passmore as Rocky Run's Teacher of the Year, but we are very proud to say that she has been selected as the Teacher of the Year for Stafford County Public Schools.
Hi, my name is Nina Passmore, and I'm the ITRT at Rocky Run Elementary School. It is a huge honor to be Stafford County's Teacher of the Year and Rocky Run's Teacher of the Year. However, I truly believe that all teachers are deserving of this honor this year, that it's been a historical year in education, and I feel like all educators and staff have really rose to the challenge and persevered through the many obstacles that we've faced. I get to just support, serve, and love our staff and our teachers and our kids. And this year, due to the global pandemic, I've gotten to do that on a much deeper and larger level than I ever anticipated. And I'm really grateful for that. It's just been a privilege and a blessing. And I'm just so grateful for all the people that I work with. In particular, my ITRT team has been a huge asset to supporting me in our county, and I couldn't do it without them. And our tech team here at Rocky Run is full of amazing educators, and then my incredible administration and coaching team. And I'm just really thankful that I get to support teachers, be in the trenches with them as we've just kind of worked to get over all the hurdles and obstacles that kind of have come our way to support our kids and our families and our community as we have tried to navigate this crazy learning journey of remote learning.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jonica Putnam, and I have the pleasure of being the principal at Falmouth Elementary School. Recently, my assistant principal, Nick Kennedy, and staff nominated me for Principal of the Year. And I have to say it is one of the highest honors to be nominated for Principal of the Year. When Mr. Kennedy came to me last year and asked if he could nominate me, I had stated no, that I didn't think I was deserving of it. Over the past year, I was fortunate enough to receive my doctorate. I am a single parent, and I can honestly understand what many of our families are going through as far as working with their child and trying to be a single parent or trying to overcome obstacles. And having that understanding and that commitment to our community, our students, and our staff, I felt like by them nominating me this year, it was allowing them to recognize our efforts, not just mine. Because I truly am who I am because of the people that surround me. Not only our staff, but our students and our families. We work very hard to have that relationship with everyone that comes into contact with our building. One of the things that I pride myself in is creating a compassionate culture and climate within our building. I do that by being very sincere and genuine. I don't wear a title when I walk into the building. I am someone who I feel is approachable And my staff knows that I will not ask them to do anything that I would not do myself. We really are a family. Everyone has my cell number. I have picked people up from the hospital. I have taken children home. We have given resources. We deliver meals. Our entire staff treats our community as our family. I want to thank Nick Kennedy and the staff here at Falmouth Elementary School for nominating me for Principal of the Year.
Being named Stafford County Public Schools Principal of the Year has been my greatest honor. I have been a teacher in Stafford County. I have been an assistant principal, and now I'm principal. Before coming to Park Ridge, I was assistant principal at Rocky Run for 6 years, and prior to that, I was a teacher at Falmouth Elementary for 5 years. Stafford County is one of the best divisions that I've ever been at. I came to Stafford County from the inner city of Brooklyn, New York, where I taught for 5 years before coming here. I lead with my heart. I work with an amazing group of educators and some wonderful families, and I am humbled by this experience, and I hope that my hard work and dedication to students first and Stafford County Public Schools lives up to the title. Thank you for this honor.
Congratulations, Ms. Passmore and Ms. Butler, and well done to all the exceptional nominees. We appreciate and celebrate all of our teaching staff. As a reminder, viewers can watch all 5 videos recognizing our teachers on the SCPS YouTube channel. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to our team to make sure that we did recognize our teachers and our principals and all those that during an extraordinary year that we did not overlook the great accomplishments that they have done. So thank you for being unique, helping us to come up with a way to make sure that we recognized and saw all of those. I invite you to look. I invite Stafford County. You always ask, what is your investment and what is your return on investment? And I will tell you that today, if you watch these videos, you will see that we got a great return on our investment of the investment in this staff. Moving on to our next item is we're going to be talking about our Phoenix Center for Innovative Learning. And I believe Dr. Kisner is going to give that introduction, Ms. Cavatayo, so hold on.
Okay, thank you. You can't talk about the Phoenix Center without talking about Rita. In the last week, I've had 3 different meetings, and each meeting, Rita's name came up because everyone recognizes that she's remarkably passionate. Her leadership to make sure all children are successful is unwavering. She has high expectations for learning. She has high expectations for behavior. She's so committed to Stafford, but she's so committed to children that often need a champion in their corner. Rita, as you may know, has been with Stafford since 1988. She took a 6-year little break to go to Fredericksburg to be an AP, came back and became an AP at Brook Point, and in 2014, she took over the leadership for our alternative ed program. She has amazing accomplishments, but there's probably 2 I'm going to mention that when I think about it, I'm envious and I'm also exhausted thinking about it. She has 6 children, she has 12 grandchildren, and a 13th on the way. So she's retiring this year, well deserved. She has plenty of opportunities to spend time with family and enjoy the great work that she did. So please join me in welcoming Rita Cavalita.
Dr. Kisner, first, thank you for that lovely introduction. Tonight, Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Kisner, Dr. Jones, I'm here to just sort of tell you about all the things that we do at the Phoenix Center. Now, they tell me I only have 10 minutes, so that's really hard to do because we do a lot at the Phoenix Center. We have a lot of programs there, and so I'm going to go through everything. Okay. That's all right. Oh, I'm the other one. I'm the orange one. I think the disc is what. Thank you. And then just to move it right here. Yep. Okay, good. Thank you. Appreciate that. Technology's never been my thing.
No, me either.
Okay. So anyway, this evening I'm going to go through some of our programs, but I thought I would start out.
Oh, this one? Present? Sorry about that.
There. Oh, there we go. Okay. With having some of our staff tell you what it's like to work at the Phoenix Center.
Sarah Stansberry, I'm the counselor for Turning Point at the Phoenix Center. I also assist with the evening program that is also under the umbrella of non-traditional programs. I will say, having been in this county 18 years now, it has been a very unique experience being able to be part of this amazing staff for the last 3 years and seeing how we can meet students where they're at, work with them in a different environment that we are able to do in the Phoenix Center program. So students come to us with very individualized needs to help them succeed in earning their diploma or GED. Our environment allows us to meet with them, see what this person as an individual needs to be successful, and deliver that to get them to the finish line.
I'm Garrett Stone. I'm the math teacher at Turning Point. I've been in alt ed or non-traditional education for my entire 19-year career. I love working here. There's 10,000 high school students in Stafford County. There's hundreds of teachers doing a terrific job of educating them and helping them find themselves and succeed in the future. There's always a group that just isn't going to fit in for whatever reason. And I just love the idea that, we've got programs here to help those kids find success, and I'm very grateful to be a part of that.
I'm Charlene Lewis. I'm the office manager and admin support here for the Phoenix Center. I love this facility. I love seeing the staff coming in, the students, and supporting them, and watching their success stories as they go through individually.
Working here is great. It's my first teaching experience that I've had. It's great to see the kids progress from the beginning of the year to where they are now. At the beginning of the year, I had students probably 1 or 2 days a week. Now they're consistently showing up 4 days. It's great to see them academically and how excited they're coming into school. So just a great environment to work, and I got really lucky being here.
A couple of years ago, we decided to change the name. We had always been known as the Alternative Programs in Stafford County, and people would say to me, why do you want to change it? Because we don't feel like alternative programs describes everything that we do. And quite often when people think of alternative programs, there's a very negative connotation that's been associated with those. So we wanted to make sure people understood that's not who we are, and that's not who our kids are. So we wanted to pick a name that symbolized more of what we really do. We do individualized instruction. We have programs to address social and emotional needs of our students. And it's a place that's different than the regular school setting, and very purposefully, because the regular school setting did not work for most of the kids who come to our program. So I like to say it's a place where if you are the round peg, you don't have to try to fit into the square hole. These are all the programs at the Phoenix Center. We just keep adding to it. So we're up to, 7 now that I can define as specific programs that are there at the Phoenix Center. I'm going to lump these together a little bit in the interest of time. Turning Point and Evening Program really target about the same type of, or the same group of kids. We really are looking at primarily seniors, our kids who are getting close to their senior year, but for some reason just need something different if we're going to get them across that finish line. We offer both high school diplomas and GED program. GED program this year is growing, I think as a result of some of our way we deliver instruction now, and kids who've gotten very frustrated with it have just said, can I just take my GED and move on? They can go to community college, they can go, into the workforce, whatever. So that has grown a little bit this year. We serve anywhere from 135 to 170 students a year in that program with just 3 full-time teachers. I will tell you that number has almost tripled in the time that I took over as administrator at the Phoenix Center. The evening program targets very much the same type of student, but we do that at 2 sites. Dr. Hornick worked with me, and we established one at North Stafford and then one at the Phoenix Center. So 2 nights a week there at North and 2 nights a week there at the Phoenix Center. We particularly put emphasis on our ELL population for this when we were looking for the grant to do this, because quite often they are the ones, as they get older, who drop out because they have decent jobs, they're working during the day, but they can't come to school then. So the night program, we have really looked at that population in hopes of being more successful in getting those kids across the finish line. The regional program, we have both a middle and a high school program that deal primarily with kids who have behavioral issues that make it difficult for them to be successful in the regular school setting. They need smaller environments, they need those relationships, they need to be somewhere where for some reason they just don't have as much need to act out and to display those behaviors. We serve both general education and students with disabilities in those programs. We have approximately 30% of our students have IEPs. And we serve, at the high school level, we serve students from King George and Fredericksburg City, which is part of the condition of our grant that we received from the state to fund this program. The middle school program, same thing. We're looking at students who have some behavioral issues primarily. We also see kids who are attendance issues and just don't come to school, but for some reason, right now I have a group of kids who didn't go to middle school, but they show up every day in our program. So we work very close collaboration with attendance services and trying to get those kids into school and providing something different that will make them want to come. We are really looking at restructuring that program, and I'm excited that Mr. Boatwright, who's taken over for me, has worked with me this year on looking at how do we do this different for middle school. Nobody wants to put a middle schooler up for long-term suspension, and I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to either. But how do we still reach those kids who need a different environment in order to be successful? So I know he will continue that great work.
So one of the reasons I just had to stay at the Phoenix Center is because the teachers are more supportive and you can get more help from them. And they can help you out if you make mistakes. A lot of times, if you're late behind on work, they don't mind as long as you get it into them before the quarter or something. And most teachers won't be like that. A lot of them will be like, no, it's too late, and then that's part of the reason why you fail the class. They really want you to pass, and they really try their best to help you graduate. And that's one of the reasons that's one of the main reasons that I've seen this school over the 3 years, first 2 years, where because of disciplinary, but then it turned out that I actually really enjoyed it and did it better. I decided to stay here for my senior and junior year.
I like the Phoenix Center because it's helpful when the class sizes are smaller. Miss Hawkins, she's nice and calm, and Mrs. Jones, she's like helpful with man. And like you talked about stuff outside of school, like we can help you outside of school. And the school is very supportive as well.
I like coming here because it gives me the advantage to get ahead of school, and I like that because I want to graduate early because I want to become a pediatric or trauma surgeon. And the staff here, they care about us. They're willing to take time out of their day to talk to me when I need it. And I greatly appreciate that because I've never had someone that actually care about me like that.
Her last words really struck my heart. She's a wonderful student. And they only took down their masks while they talked. They did put them right back up as soon as I was afraid we wouldn't be able to hear them. These are just some quotes from parents. We are very lucky that we've always had parents who really appreciate what the staff does at the Phoenix Center. And so often when they leave us or whatever, parents will send me notes that just say how much they appreciate what we've done. So these are just some of the few things that parents have said about us. We had one father who said, we were to education what the SEALs are to the Navy. And I don't think there could be a higher compliment from an ex-military man. So anyway, his son was quite challenging, but he did very well, graduated, and it all worked out. The regional adult education is also under the umbrella of the Phoenix Center, and we do offer throughout our county ESL classes. We offer ABE classes and GED classes. And we serve probably 250 adults a year in those programs. And those numbers fluctuate, but typically right in that range. This is what we're really excited about this year. This year in January, we got notice from the state that we received the JVG grant. JVG stands for Jobs for Virginia Graduates. And this is something we've always been really concerned about as we finish our kids up, but then where do they go from there and what's the next step? For some, it's community college. Some of them, you know, have some expectations of what to do afterwards, but many of them are just really struggling with what that is. So this has given us the opportunity to hire a job coach. We've been very lucky. We hired a young lady who's just doing a fabulous job. And she works on career counseling with the kids. She meets with them, helps them write resumes, helps them write cover letters. And she also helps them to call up and fill out applications and works with them on how do you take that job that you love or that thing you love, turn it into a job, and then make it into a career. She's been incredible. We had a job and career day on April 20th, and our guest speaker was Antonio Rice. And if some of you are football fans, he was a former UVA football player who went on to play for the Dallas Cowboys, and right now he has been named the CEO of JVG. So he was very inspirational in talking to the students. The students absolutely loved the 2 days that we spent doing different job things in conjunction with King's Dominion and everything, and it turned out to be just a really successful opportunity for all. Attendance services is also under our umbrella, and this is a thing that's near and dear to my heart, because if kids aren't in school, we can't educate them. And quite often the reasons they aren't in school are such a wide variety of reasons. It's not always that they're just sitting home playing video games, although sometimes that's it, but also, as a rule, there's also a lot of other issues in the families that need to be addressed so we can get these kids back in school. In Stafford County, we have chosen for our attendance service people to be social workers for a very good reason, because most of the time this is the type of person you need working with these families and addressing their needs, because they know the resources in the community and they also have the skills to work with the many issues that we see. Our caseloads are just keep going up, and this year they're averaging, I have 3 social workers, attendance social workers, and they are averaging 75 cases apiece. These are really difficult cases because by the time they come to us, the schools have already done some interventions, and so they're very difficult. So they have 213 kids on right now that they're working with, families that they're working with. In 2016, we had a total of 96 cases, so you can see what the growth has been in that area. This department has been led by Miss Beverly Lemons the last 3 years, who has just done an incredible job of really helping us to restructure that department. Celebrating successes. This is something we love to do at the Phoenix Center, because quite often we get kids who nobody's ever thought anything they've done was good. So we celebrate every opportunity we get. We do 2 completion ceremonies every year, and some of you have been there, and I appreciate that. Thank you. And we include not only our seniors who have completed, but also our GED students who have completed, and they really don't have an opportunity to be recognized. So this gives them that same opportunity. They wear their cap and gowns just like everybody else. I do kids in alphabetical order, so nobody knows who got the high school diploma and who got the GED certificate. But these are really great ceremonies, and the kids really enjoy them. Both of these pictures were pre-COVID, which is why we could stand on the steps and be in a crowd and no mask. Every year we give the Phoenix Award at our celebrations, and the Phoenix Award is an award that we give to one of the students, the staff votes for this, who overcame overwhelming obstacles to finish school and did it with a positive attitude. So we've had donations from Mount Arrett. We had a realty company in town, and then we have an anonymous donor who prefers to stay anonymous that has also given us funds for this. These are 2 of our recipients, one of them pre-COVID and one of them just here in January with me. So we celebrate every opportunity we get. We have Student of the Month, we have attendance awards, we have honor roll recognition. These are banners that we hang in the hallways, and when the students come into us, if they are seniors, they sign a commit to graduate. And then when they do that, they get to hang their hat on the banner that says, "I've finished." So these are hats from half of our students last year, because this would be primarily our second semester. And we hung them outside when we did our graduation out there. We have annual holiday dinners. We do pizza parties. We do cookouts. We do whatever to honor the successes of our students. And last, I would really like to recognize my staff. And again, this is a pre-COVID shot, which is why everybody's crowded together with no mask. But these are the people who really make everything happen at the Phoenix Center. They are phenomenal. They really care about kids. They build great relationships. And they truly do meet the kids where they are and move forward from there. No judgment, which is really the primary thing. So anyway, I'd like to thank all of them. And one last thank you, and that is to the school board here, to our present and our past superintendent, and for all of their support of our programs. I have felt very supported while I've been in this role, and I feel like without that support, we would never have grown the way we have or been able to serve all the students that we have. So thank you so much for that. And that's a quick summary.
I'm going to take chairman's privilege on this one. Rita, come back up here. Rita, I can't tell you how many lives you have changed. I know you talk about it being a team, but a team needs a leader. And you have been an amazing leader at that Phoenix Center. I thank you for taking that call several years ago to get you moved to a new center, because there is so much that we can do for our kids. For 42 years, I think it is, you've invested in kids. Now you get to invest even more in your grandkids.
Right.
However, please remember that everybody at Stafford County Public Schools knows your phone number and will be able to find you. But I just would like to say, too, on behalf of the board and everyone else, a great team needs a great leader, and I thank you for being that leader for them.
Thank
for
you.
a
It
while.
has been an honor and a privilege, and I want you to know that, to serve this population.
I would like to also thank Rita for even listening about changing the name of the Phoenix Center, and I was happy to be there with you to help make it a change. So I appreciate that for all your work that you've done there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Happy retirement, eventually. Not yet. All right, we will be moving on to our Summer Learning 2021. So I'm going to recognize Dr. Strike and Dr. Duffy and whoever else on your team. I believe I will let you all come forward and present.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Duffy is in the background because she is the project lead for summer learning. She has always coordinated our summer learning program in the past. So she's here for any comments and to back me up, because there's a lot of information I'm going to share, and I'll try to do that in a short period of time. So, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the school board. I've been asked by Instructional Services to give you an overview of summer learning programs coming up for 2021. I want to start out by saying last year, everybody is commenting on this, but last year it just seems like it flew by. We were planning this and we had to do it all virtually. So there is a great deal of excitement around summer learning this year. There's a new component to summer learning, and we have branded it as the Great Learning Adventure. So summer learning typically is how we handle students who aren't meeting grade level expectations, and it changes a little bit with high school because of verified credits that they have to recover. We have had 130 teachers, in addition to what they have done this year with students under all these circumstances, come forward and work to design interdisciplinary, thematic design challenges that incorporate fundamental skills and targeted skills that we, of course, have been identifying throughout recent months. And they have branded that over the last few weeks GLA. So I'm going to refer to GLA just to keep this very succinct as I move through here, and you'll hear that a little later in the presentation. I'm going to give you some components that always have existed in our summer learning program. I'm going to start with special education. So we will be offering that component of special education, which is extended school year. That will start July 6th. That is, the criteria for that is determined by the IEP team. And of course, the parent is part of that IEP team. And Mr. Hummer is actually overseeing that. And of course, our parents and our students would be contacted through their schools regarding that particular program. It begins July 6th, and it's 4 hours a day, 4 days a week. Up on the screen, we have our early childhood program. June 22nd, Head Start starts at Rising Star and North Star for 4 days a week, And we also have extended school year beginning July 6th. Kathy Massey has overseen the design for that program. Before I move to the next slide, I've got some kindergartners that are going to help me with the next slide. I want to talk to you about going on an adventure and the fact that this next component has always been a component, but we wanted to emphasize the idea that it's going to be in person this year. And we're so happy to present these kindergartners. Mrs. Washington is their music teacher at Whitewater, and they're excited about the fact that they're back in school and they're on an adventure. So please listen.
We are ready! We are ready! We are on adventure! We are ready! We are ready! We are on adventure! We are ready! We are ready! We are on adventure! Yeah!
I'm going to continue with that theme of adventure. There we go. Sorry about that. We don't need, actually, this is the adventure I wanted to talk about to you this evening, and it's the elementary adventure. And again, I'm going to come back to those design challenges to engage students in academically rich learning, and very different than what some of the experiences that they had to go through this year. So this one here is a 5th grade design challenge that our teachers put together. LAUD facilitators did the framework for this, ensuring that we had those necessarily math and literacy skills tucked into this. And our elementary program that will be hosting this begins on June 22nd. Starts at 7:45 in the morning. It's 3.5 hours with a break. Lunch and breakfast are provided, and also transportation. From kindergarten all the way up through 5th grade, if you come to the first session June 22nd, the second session I believe is July 12th, these are the different design challenges that you will experience. So each particular session, a student who's participating will get to do 3 different design challenges. So this interdisciplinary instructional design is something that became also a really robust professional learning experience for us and for our teachers, because we really want to head more in this direction during the course of a school year as we present and as we teach. Criteria for attending our summer learning program, again, as I had mentioned, is meeting those students who are not meeting our grade level expectations. It's teacher recommendation. It's important to know that there is a parent recommendation. Parents can recommend their students. We are emphasizing this year a social emotional need for students to attend also. Just a little bit of the design work. I won't be mentioning this when I get to middle and high school. I wanted to go into some of this detail for you. This is a 1st grade. One of the 1st grade design challenges is the exploration of the Everglades on their tour. And as you know, we've been focused on writing as part of our literacy, and also social emotional development is incorporated by way of, in this design challenge, a engaging in music activity for the kids. So a lot of work went into creating these experiences. We have been focused on literacy before COVID. And again, these are some samples of that framework that I had mentioned earlier, where knowledge, vocabulary, shared reading, and a heavy emphasis on interactive writing are built into the various design challenges that you see on the screen. Off to middle school. That program also begins June 22nd. It is the same criteria to attend as the elementary program, but in addition, your SOL results will be incorporated into that criteria. The program in the middle school, I believe, begins at 9:15, and our second session is the same as our elementary session. Here are 3 of the 6th grade thematic units. I really would be interested in designing my own profitable restaurant. Some of the 7th grade units get into detective work, solving crime, sort of a CSI authentic problem-solving situation. I wanted to share with you as I go to the high school. I had to do this because it's absolutely phenomenal what our teachers in the high school did last year in a virtual setting and what our students accomplished last year. So for our high school pass rates with new credit and credit recovery, it's a big component of our summer learning for high school, we had close to a 91% completion rate and 650 courses were completed. So that program, credit recovery and new initial credit, will continue, and that will continue at the Phoenix Center and also North Stafford High School locations. Middle school students who took credit-bearing courses can also participate in this and take initial credit, or they could recover a course that they were in this year. This is all free of charge this year, which is important to note. This is an example, this is a slide shot of some of our students in the e-labs, because this is a blended learning model that we offer. So you do come face to face, but there are virtual components to our credit recovery and initial credit courses. GLA, we extended it to high school. So authentic contexts continue all the way up through these very complex design challenges in the high school, emphasizing the work-based learning initiatives. There'll be an opportunity to become an entrepreneur. We had 2 assistant principals that worked with the teacher committees to design these. Stephanie Sullivan out of Mountain View and Carly Hegna out of Brookpoint High School. That is where these 2 programs will be located. GLA for high school will be located there. I will tell you that I was in a recent meeting this week with Ms. Hegna, and she is very excited about the design challenge about event planning. So just a lot of excitement on the part of our teachers. There's a lot of information coming out. We're rolling out our website, and beginning of May, to the middle of May, there'll be information going out from the schools, and of course our communications team partner will be helping us with some of that communications. And there is the website address, and we're building it. I think it launched this evening, but we'll be adding to it as we move forward. Our teachers, I've heard nothing but excitement since our kids came back to school, and we have a teacher who stepped forward to teach in our summer learning program, Mr. Patrick Stormer from Garrisonville Elementary School. He's so excited about teaching this summer and having his kids back that he took the song Wagon Wheel and he wrote new lyrics to it. So I am going to give him the opportunity to play for you. And you'll know what school he's at by the sign and also by some other familiar characters.
Some schools have been man now rocks. The day's gonna rise when we can re-engage our kids eye to eye. So rock GLA like never before. Rock GLA 'cause we want more. Hey, it's a summer adventure. Oh, rock GLA for 1 or 2 sessions. Rock GLA for learning retention. It's a great summer adventure. Won't you join us?
Perfect way for me to end my segment. Now, Mr. Fulmer is providing an encore this evening regarding some funding for the summer learning programs. But I want to thank Mr. Stormer. I want to thank the Gators. And of course, if I was a student, I would love to be in Mr. Stormer's class. So thank you. Mr. Fulmer, your guitar? You got it?
And I believe that Mr. Stormer is a first-year teacher. Yes, he is. I know him, so that's.
So.
Did you bring your guitar?
Yeah, no music for me. So, yeah. All right, this is very high level, and I just wanted to, we talked about this a little bit in our prior budget work session, but just wanted to emphasize that there's several different funding streams that are going to be available for summer learning remediation over the next couple of years, and so it's not even just this upcoming summer, but it's also the future summers as well. We have our normal state and local funding, which can be used every year that we budget for. In addition to that, which is what we really talked about a little bit at the last work session, is the federal funding. There's been several iterations of that federal funding, from the CARES Act to the CRRSA, and then most recently the ARPA funding. And the ARPA funding is where we're receiving approximately $14 million, but 20% of that has to be used for remediation and summer learning. And so we've got a minimum of $2.8 million set aside there. And I emphasize the minimum because we've got several months this upcoming summer. We're doing stuff during the school year now, and then in the future school years, and then the future summer. So I just wanted to let you know there's lots of funds available, and we'll be coming forward with a full plan on how we're spending that ARPA funding.
All right, I'm going to ask if board members have any questions specifically on any of these topics. So, Ms. Healy, do you mind? I'm just going to kind of go down, see if anybody has any questions.
No questions.
Okay. Ms. Hollerbeck? Ms. Randall?
Do we have our Great Learning Adventure fully staffed for this summer?
Very good question, Mrs. Randall. We are currently recruiting, and of course, we are determining the number of students that meet the criteria for it, but we could use all the help we can get in recruiting more teachers. So, does that answer your question? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll just wait.
Yeah, I was just going to say, don't run away yet.
Don't run away.
Ms. Young?
So hey, how are you? How you doing? My question was in reference to the summer program. You mentioned North Stafford, you mentioned Phoenix, but then I hear the CARES Act, but we also talked about making sure that all students that went through COVID and were at home and needing some help, where do they fit in, and like?
So you're referencing a high school student. So the criteria for high school, summer school, has to do with verified credit at the risk of not graduating, and then the other criteria that I mentioned was teacher recommendation, parent recommendation, and that social emotional piece. So when you ask about help, that is something that our teachers are very much in tune with and identifying right now. That's why it's very much a school-based program, and letters, et cetera, will go out based on that. The locations for those programs are Mountain View and Brook Point.
Okay, so this will all be clarified, and
schools.
this will be clarified for the parents, be on the website, so they will know which program their child, their student needs to be in.
Yes.
In terms of their help or in terms of where they are. And I think we've talked about this before, that we will know where the students stand so that they will know which program they need to be in.
Correct.
Okay.
As in previous years, there are always letters that go out to our high school students. It's a big part of a summer learning program that we do in our high schools. Now, if a parent, caregiver is confused, they want to contact their student's school if they ever get confused by the website.
Yeah, and I'm not only referring to high school, I'm also
That is-
talking about middle school, elementary,
In
all schools,
elementary
right?
school, right. So there's autonomy in the design of this program. It's very much school-based. So there's nothing that, we send out from central office because of all that different criteria and triangulating those data sets to identify kids. But the parents are very much a part of it this year, free of
Okay.
charge.
Okay, we don't have much time.
But we're busy, and I know they've
Yeah.
been busy out in the schools already.
Thank you.
Dr. Warner, any questions? Excuse me.
So these will be offered at all of our elementary and middle schools?
Yes.
Okay.
And, In some cases, they might be teaming up. It just depends on how many students are in those, but I don't know so much about the elementary. Your chiefs would know more about the specificity of that. But I do know that some of the programs will be Monday, Thursday in some schools, and other schools Tuesday, Friday. It just has to do with our transportation, circumstances, et cetera. Okay, so that's why it's very much school-based.
Okay, and this question is for Mr. Fulmer. So what is the overlap on the expiration of these different funding streams from the federal government? Because I know some of them were extended, but I'd like to know what our timeline is for those funding streams.
Yeah, so I know the ARPA is definitely September of '23. So we have several years before that expires, and I believe the CARES is '22 in the CRSA.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Dr. Chase.
Really no questions, just to say thank you very much for pulling this together, and hope that we can get it staffed and that we can get as many kids the help that they need as we can.
I'll just make a final comment too. Regarding some of the letters and things like that, I know a lot of our counselors are working with our families. I think as much personal reach out to the families to explain this, because there is so much going on, and I know that's an extra step. But I would just encourage, to the extent that we can, and especially for some of our parents that English is not their first language. I know that our staff does that, but I think potentially because of so much change and over the summer, as much as we can and do that, and I know our schools do that as well, that a letter is just one part of the reach out to our families, making sure that they do understand, of course, that I believe busing is included in transportation, so that there is not that worry for our families. So, and again, if anybody is listening here and has questions about that, their best start is at their individual school. Is that correct, Dr. Strike? Okay. All right. Thank you all very much, and appreciate all the work, and maybe we can get Mr. Stormer to come and sing for us next time.
Person without a mask. Great.
Thank you. All right. Well, moving on, we are going to move to our public comments. We will have 2 sessions this evening regarding public comments, but I will do the introduction once. First and foremost, it's very nice to be back in our building with our speaking area and with our light system. So tonight, based on the law, we have a public hearing on our FY22 budget, which we will be hopefully adopting later this evening. We also, so first comments will be made regarding the budget. Any comments there? And then secondly, there are general citizen comments as well. I'm going to read the invitation once. We have sign-in for 2 people to speak on the FY22 funding request. We'll start with those, and then if there's anybody else here who would like to speak, I'll invite them forward. So 3 minutes are allotted to each speaker. Speakers are encouraged to provide a copy of their comments, if you do have them, to the board clerk. Speakers shall identify themselves by name and organizational affiliation if the spokesperson represents that organization. Again, 3 minutes. There will be the stoplight chart. Once you see the yellow light, that means you have 1 minute left. If the red light goes off, we will give you 5 or a few seconds to wrap up your comments, please. So, the chairperson reserves the right to restrict the total citizen comment received at any particular meeting to a predetermined maximum number of minutes with the approval of the full board. Citizen comment which is profane, abusive, or which threatens imminent physical harm shall be ruled out of order by the chair. Although the board provides the opportunity for citizen comment, individuals desiring to register complaints against division employees or division programs, services, or activities may also utilize the procedures outlined in Stafford County Public School Policy 1113, Public Complaints. As I said, we have 2 speakers signed up for the FY22 funding request on our public hearing. First, I will recognize Christian Peabody, if he will like to come forward. And next, I have David Falth, so if you want to be waiting in the wings, that would be great.
Good. All right, members of the board, good evening. Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Jones, Missy, and Dr. Kisner. It's good to see you as well. My name is Christian Peabody. I live at 121 Forest Avenue in Fredericksburg. I'm the music teacher at Falmouth Elementary and the president of the Stafford Education Association. It's wonderful to be back here, and as like a rechristening almost, and hearing how incredible of a job our educators are doing, I almost really don't have a speech at this point. They all said it. So the simplest things are the best things said, so just on behalf of our educators, our students, and our community, I just want to thank you all. Thank you for being the board that built and voted on such a tremendous budget that will hopefully again be adopted tonight. This budget really is nothing less than a paradigm shift for our direction moving forward. So Dr. Warner, your work as the FAB chair has been exemplary. So thank you for that as well. Thank you especially to Madam Chair, and also especially Ms. Hollaback and your counterpart on the Board of Supervisors. You've been talking to us almost daily at this point about strategy, concerns, advocacy like that with the budget moving forward with SEA, and I cannot tell you how much help that's been, especially as we continue to work supporting the mission of the division, the advocacy for this budget. So again, thank you so much. I know I blew up your phone a lot, and I appreciate that. Thank you as well to all the staff, Mr. Fulmer, Dr. Jones, for creating such an incredible funding package. And I think we can all agree, too, to thank Dr. Kisner for your vision and your belief in our division. And you've really shown us what it means when you said you got to believe. So thank you for everything as well. You know, with tonight's vote to adopt this budget, you're also showing that you believe in our educators' work that they have done in this pandemic, and that it's worth investing on what the work they're going to need to do coming into this next school year. And you're also showing the Commonwealth that you believe Stafford truly is the place where educators belong and where they should call home, and that you believe in honoring the profession. And it's remarkable because you are the ones who are here at this time, almost against almost impossible odds. And you are the ones that made this happen, while many of our divisions around us are failing to meet the watermark you have set. And with this budget, things like the collective bargaining law coming up in 4 days, so many other things that we can get done, this journey to really a fully funded division in the face of a national retention crisis is starting in earnest, and you guys established that. So this is a remarkable chapter in the history of our division, and you are the ones where it all began. So stay that course. And again, from the bottom of my heart and everyone else, thank you so much for everything you guys do. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for coming out. Mr. Falth, come on down.
Are we allowed to take off masks? I don't know what the policy is.
You can, that's
Awesome.
fine.
Thank you. My name is David Fout. I live at 18 Antietam Loop in the Aquia District. And I think it's crazy to think that you will not adopt the budget. So tonight I do support the adoption of the budget. With that being said, in the words of the great late Herb Brooks, 1980 Olympic hockey coach, great moments are born from great opportunity. And that's what you have here. That's what you've earned here. As a board, you've earned a great moment with this budget. Whether you agree that the Board of Supervisors totally funded it or they used federal funding for it. This is a pivotal year for you to execute on that budget. You know as well as I do that the Board of Supervisors, the public, parents will be watching to see how you execute on that budget. We know that there's no shortage of work to be done. High School 6 needs to be built. Teacher retention, hiring of counselors and social workers. I mean, it's amazing that we have 3 carrying a caseload of 75. I think it was at the last meeting or one of the other meetings where you talked about trying to hire social workers who will be full-time employees. It's important to do that and not just hire contractors. We need social workers that are going to invest in the community, live in the community, be here long-term to work with the families. And you know that there's just a lot of work in catch-up. We just heard that with summer school. You know, even I think it was at the February meeting where we saw board or scores from last year to this year go down. There's a lot of work to be done in catch-up. So you have a lot of work to do. And who knows in this election year and in this election environment what next year's Board of Supervisors will be and what the funding will be. So it's critical this year that you execute well. I hope you have the wisdom of Solomon, that you're wise as serpents. We're watching you. We wish you the best. Congratulations on getting a full budget. Now go out and execute to the best of your ability. And thank you all.
Thank you. All right, is there anybody else here who has come to speak on the public hearing on the FY22 budget? Okay. Oh, okay, I don't think somebody's really coming with the sirens to come speak. I did hear them, but I don't really think that's coming for us. So seeing nobody leaping over their chairs to come forward, I'm going to close the comments on the FY22 budget. So there will be a second session of general citizen comments on topics other than the budget. So is there, oh, hold on. Thank you. All right, Mr. Fouth, would you like to come forward for the general citizen comments? I saw you standing in the wings. You're great on the efficiency. I love it.
Thank you. David Fount, 18 Antietam Loop in the Aquia District. And it's not every meeting that you get a twofer. It's like Taco Tuesday, or buy one, get one free. So I think last meeting we talked about what can we do for the high school. So congratulations to Brook Point, well done for their senior sunset parade. As a Brook Point, I have 4 kids that went through Brook Point. I love Brook Point. So congratulations to Brook Point, to the staff, well done. Last Tuesday, Mount Ararat was at Foxwood serving some meals with the hunger. I saw Principal Mackey out there, so had a chance to say hi to him. It was great to see him out there engaging with the kids. So if he's in, say hi to him. Great job, Principal Mackey. You're doing a great job, and it's great to see them out there. Ironically, it is Math Awareness Month, and we know that there's a big brouhaha coming out of Fox 5 about the Virginia math policy initiatives down in Richmond. So I watched both videos on YouTube. Watch them at 1.5 speed so you can get a lot more done in a shorter amount of time. A lot of great ideas that are coming out of that. Tonight they were talking about middle school, so when that video gets posted, I'll go back and watch that. But we do need courses in data science, modeling, computing modules. We do need those classes. We also need the IB and the AP dual enrollment to be continued. So I know it's a long-term rollout, but I hope that Stafford County is leading the way in the region on the math initiatives. So very interesting stuff, and I hope we continue to go on. And finally, on advanced diploma, it's not just a sticker. I had a younger son that probably drove several teachers to early retirement. He wasn't the easiest to deal with, but he fought through the STAT program. The STAT program was great for him. It was great for math. It meant something. He finished with an advanced diploma. It was more than just a sticker. It showed a lot of hard work. So I don't know, what the school board can do to continue to have different options, but I would encourage you to keep the advanced diploma sticker. The advanced diploma, it's more than just a sticker. It really means something. It really shows the 4 years of hard work that the students put in and the extra effort they do. So I would encourage you to consider that. And again, thank you for your time and thank you for your service.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else who wishes to address the board? Is there anybody else who wishes to address the board this evening? All right, seeing nobody running from the back, I'm going to go ahead and close our public comment, and we will move on to our board committee reports. Any reports this evening? You want to start us off? Ms. Randall, start us off.
The governance committee meeting was held on April 15th, and one of the things that a couple things came out of it. One was that in the fall, we were able to do a service project with the leadership in central office as well as our school board members here. And so in our governance, we wanted to come up with something in the spring to do with the same school board and with the superintendent's cabinet as well. And we talked about doing, working with Stafford Food Security. So I reached out to Mr. White, and he gave me several dates, which I will have Missy share with the board. And what we decided to do was choose a date and a location in the north end of the county and choose a date and a location in the south end of the county so that we could help get board members, you don't have to do if you're a Northern member, you don't have to do North End, whatever, but we're just trying to give options for dates as well as for participation. So I will have Missy send that out this evening. We are also covering the 3,000 and 4,000 level policies, the next series, and we will not look to see those until somewhere near July, because it'll go through Lisa. Lisa's got to work with Richmond, and then she's also got to bring it back to Dr. Kisner before it comes back to us. But she's working a schedule out with Patrick and other leadership to make sure, instructional leadership, to make sure everything's okay. We have work towards, I know Dr. Warner and myself have sent things about collective bargaining, so we will be talking more about that. I know Ms. Hazard has some information going out with attorney to have a conversation with us. Policy, Ms. Young had brought forward about policies related to student discipline. And one of the things that we talked about, Dr. Kisner worked with us on that, and one of the things that we talked about was, since we've updated our student code of conduct, and there will be more updates still coming to that student code of conduct, in addition to policies, that the piece that we needed to make sure, and he agreed, is that we make sure that we have training, review of training, and professional development coming. And he said, and to keep renewing as we update our policies and procedures to make sure that everyone understands the different approach that we're taking with discipline in our county, and the wraparound services that are to be given to some of the students that may need help. And then at the last part, Ms. Hazard mentioned about us, the size of our county, and the fact that we don't have lobbyists down in Richmond specifically for Stafford. And so Dr. Kisner went back and he got information that there are 15 counties similar size to ours, 16 counties, sorry, similar size to ours or larger, and even smaller, that have either a public information / government relations position, or a lobbyist, or they hire a firm to help them down in Richmond. And so I just wanted to, Holly wanted us to think about this, talk about this, and maybe contemplate how we would like to go forward with this. So I'm just bringing this forward and look forward to engaged conversation.
Can
Thank
I
you.
ask a quick question?
Sure.
Aren't we engaged with the county in Richmond? Don't we have a partnership with them?
With Richmond County?
No, with the county, our county.
Our county, we do. I don't want to say anything.
You're talking about the lobbyists that the county shares with us, and during the season, I mean, we have regular meetings, and we have a very open opportunity to participate and make our needs known through that.
I was just
And
curious if we
that's
still had it. Yeah.
That's at no cost to us,
Okay.
I believe.
I was just curious.
The only comment that I would make is that on the years that I served on it, there are still school issues that are not really addressed by the team that's put together by the county. Many of our shared issues, which would be some of the cost, sometimes cost to compete gets on there, and sometimes it's not a shared initiative. Mostly it's initiatives that we share, which also went to the funding of the, gosh, it's gone right out of my head, what they were working on for years. Private day school and some of that funding. But that's sort of a shared initiative. There are a lot of issues that come up that are specifically education issues. The only reason that I brought it up was we're the 8th largest school district. So what happens down in Richmond impacts us immensely. I only made it as a comment at the meeting that it was very interesting seeing the list based on size. We were probably the only one that did not have some presence or dedicated presence down there. I was not advocating one way or the other, it was just more of a comment. Yeah, it was just more of a comment. But as things get passed, remember, it is a larger impact to ours. So that doesn't mean, there aren't ways we can go forward. It was just a comment in passing that came up. So that's where it was just throwing out ideas. All right, anybody else for standing committees? All right, hearing none. Dr. Kisner, I know you're out there. Superintendent comments.
Yes, I have a few. First of all, as already mentioned, our 4-day-a-week longer school days so far has been very exciting, has been going well. Students are glad to be back in school. Staff are glad to have the students. A challenge which happens every year, even when we are not in a COVID environment, remains transportation. Barry and his team have done a phenomenal job. I do want to remind the parents that are potentially watching, we assigned your child to a bus. We've gotten some requests for certain days. Parents would like their children to ride another bus, and unfortunately, we're saying no because we are saying no for two reasons. One, we're limited on how many children could be on the bus, so your child has an assigned seat. And second, for contact tracing, we cannot have children on different days go onto different buses. So I just want to make that part known. But I do want to thank everyone. A lot of preparing, a lot of work to get. We have over 16,000 children that are being with us 4 days a week and for a longer school day. So I do want to thank them. I want to thank the teachers and the principals and central office staff. So there's been a lot of conversation. You already heard a comment about the Department of Education and the State Board of Education looking at modifying the math pathways. I would just offer to you that every 7 years, the SOLs, the standards of learning, are evaluated. This is what's happening in the area of math. I believe there's probably a lot of misinformation or information that needs to be clarified. I believe the Department of Education, Dr. Lane, yesterday did a few press conferences to help clarify it. I would just offer that those who are interested in the process, we put on our website and on the Department of Education website the public hearings, the opportunity to give input. This process will not be complete really until 2023, when the state board will adopt potentially new math standards, and it would not go into effect to 2025. So there's plenty of opportunity to provide input. I would just say, from looking at what's been posted on the website, talking to people at the Department of Education, I don't personally walk away believing that higher learning math is being compromised and that advanced math classes will not be available. But again, it's early in the process, and every 7 years, standards of learning are being evaluated. High school graduation, I know there was a request at the last board meeting to help the school board know what events are going on, and we will get you an update by Friday. It's changing often. I do have some information that I do want to share with the public, with the school board, based on Governor Northam's change to the last executive order. The high school principals have met. We have looked at our capacity. We've looked at our social distancing requirements. And I think this is really good news. We're able now to just hold one graduation on Friday and one graduation on Saturday at 8 a.m. So those families that have been informed that your graduation will be Friday, instead of having 6 graduations, now we will just have 2 graduations. Again, both will start at 8 a.m., one on Friday, one on Saturday. So I know 50% approximately of the graduates will do on Friday, and 50% approximately will do it on Saturday. So I think that's positive news, and I just want to make sure. Tomorrow, the high school principals will begin to inform their school community. As already mentioned by Mrs. Randall, Lisa Boatwright is going to be reaching out to school board members to meet in either one or two to talk about the second phase of the code of conduct. She'll eventually bring it to the school board, we think at the end of May, but it has a lot of details, and we've done this in the past, and if school board members are interested, she'll be reaching out to you and see if you would like to have an opportunity to sit down with her and understand the code of conduct, which again, the model policies are being driven by changes that happened at the State Board of Education. And last, I do want to, probably should have tried to find something positive to end with, but today we had our meeting with the health department. We do that every Tuesday. And again, I just want to remind the community that, COVID is still, unfortunately, very pronounced in the Stafford area. They did mention today that they feel like maybe it's plateauing. Some of the data in our region that saw an increase was driven by something that was occurring in Caroline County with one of the health providers submitting their data. I don't know if it was late, but it kind of changed the numbers. But regardless, I do want to remind the public that COVID is, I know people have COVID fatigue, but it's really, really important that people, again, are wearing masks, that people are practicing the social distancing, people are washing their hands. I remind all of us, we just started the fourth quarter. We have 8 more weeks of school left. And the weather is beautiful. Today was 75, 80 degrees. And it's, people want to go out, people want to socialize. When we have COVID cases, people have to quarantine for 14 days. And if we contact trace, you have to be 14 days. So we're just asking people to please follow what we know helps minimize COVID spread. And I think that's really, really important. So anyway, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Kisner. We will continue to hear more on the items I know that you have raised. So we will be moving on to our main action item, main and only action item this evening is regarding the adoption of the FY fiscal year 22 school board budget. I thought before we made a motion, Dr. Warner, would you like to have any comments? And I see Mr. Fulmer creeping forward, which I believe he will come, but would you like to have some opening comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Strike and Dr. Duffy and her team for putting together our summer learning program. I think that I've always been excited by seeing the hanging of all these different curriculum items onto a thematic unit. I think it makes learning much more real for students. I think that the school board has worked really hard this year to try to make sure that we can offer the resources to make sure that these programs are successful. I'm very proud of our budget this year. I think we worked very hard together to make this budget meet the needs that some of which presented themselves in the last year, and some of them we still haven't identified. I think that there's been a lot of cooperation and a lot of working together, and hopefully, I know that I support the budget, and I'm hoping that the rest of the board will pass it without any complications. Thank you.
Mr. Fulmer, if you could just go over the slides that were there. Many of us, we on the board, of course, have seen this in our work session, but I think it would be helpful if we would like to just see those, what we would be voting on prior to the motion. I just thought you could give a, oh, Ms. Healy, sorry.
Madam Chairman, I just have a question. I thought traditionally there is a motion and then discussion.
Sure.
So could we not
Okay.
have a motion before
Sure.
we continue this discussion?
I
under
will
the Robert's
make,
rules?
I will make a motion that we pass the FY '22 budget as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Time for discussion. I'm going to have Mr. Fulmer go ahead and give an opening on those slides that are before us.
Thank you again, board members, Madam Chair. I'll just give a high-level overview of the budget as it stands with as I go through it, just a few of the adjustments that were made from your school board approved budget to this final budget. I'll start by saying, as constructed, the school board approved budget, everything implemented in there will be able to come to fruition in this final adopted budget. The adjustments that you'll see in the second to right column are adjustments from our school board approved budget over to federal funding, which still allows us to accomplish all those items. So I'm going to go through the final column at a high level and just hit the highlights of what's in this budget. First of all, for all staff, there's a minimum 5% across the board increase. There's also additional teacher scale enhancements. The average teacher scale increase, or what a teacher will see, is approximately 7.2%, with the high of 9.4%, and as I mentioned, the low is 5%. Across the board. We also, for service scale, the rest of our employees will get the minimum 5%. Additionally, we are fully funding the service scale implementation enhancements that were proposed. And just a quick recap there, we looked and established in the previous years, we've been able to get service scale employees at least up to the minimum. It created a lot of compression on our scale. And what our goal to accomplish here was to relieve that compression. It could have been anywhere from 0 to 15 years of experience, roughly, where could have been making the entry-level rate. And so we established a new floor based on years of experience for our service scale employees, looking at for each year of experience, we're credited with 2.67% above the minimum. Additionally, we added approximately 60 new positions. That includes the 4.6 that you'll see as an adopted adjustment as a reduction. Or actually 5.6, those were social workers, but that's just moving to federal funding. We still are fully funding those social workers and the tech repair position. We have non-personnel increases. In the the school board's budget, it was a net of about $950,000 increase. We have some adjustments there of $1.7 million. Those are, once again, adjustments to federal funding for items that are eligible for the federal stimulus funds, as I explained at our work session last week. Speaking on the revenue side, we have a total of $13.2 million increase in our state revenue, have approximately $4.6 million coming from the local government, and an increase of miscellaneous funds of $550,000, brings us to a balanced budget with a total increase of $18.4 million. That is a 5.7% increase from our FY21 budget. Any questions?
Are there any questions or comments from Mr. Fulmer? Dr. Chase, you want to start us?
Yeah, Mr. Fulmer, could you put up, I saw attached, but I can't get it to come up here, the breakdown of that $861,000 that we, I guess you call it redirected funds to federal.
Yes. So this is the 1.7 that we reclassified to being funded with our federal dollars. So it actually moves from our operating fund over to our grants fund, where we show our federal grant money. We moved 4.6 social workers, one network repair technician, which was an addition to the budget. We adjusted hourly pay that was for curriculum development and other online teaching pay. We have maintenance supplies for air filters. If you recall, we were already funding some of our air filters with federal money. That was for like our air purifiers. This went back, we went back and looked and identified additional air filters that were the increase for, we now increased the rotation of our replacement of our air filters in our actual building HVAC units. We also identified technology equipment, approximately $300,000. We have identified software, and I listed a few of those softwares there of the big ticket items, of $496,000. We had health training, nurses, materials and supplies, $25,000, student services, materials and supplies, $10,000, and then student fee support, which I explained last week as well, which is helping our families pay for some of those student fees.
Okay, so I just want to, I appreciated comments about how the budget was funded and this, that, and the other. Tell me what happens to these 4.6 social workers. When does the money run out for those 4.6 social workers?
Yeah, so right now we're identifying at least for FY22 funding them with the ARPA funds. We would have enough funds in our ARPA funds to also cover those in FY23. We could choose to start to slowly transition them over to the operating fund in next year's budget. But there would be enough funds at least to cover us through 23, which is when the ARPA funds would expire.
So we would potentially in 2 years be having to make a decision about whether, if the budget was tough, whether we were going to give a raise or whether we were going to keep these social workers, or, I mean, there could be some decisions down the pike along those lines. And then the software money, $500,000 for that. And I think that ends up being about $15 per student. We would potentially have to make a similar decision, trade-off about whether we're going to have software for our students or whether we're going to give teachers a raise in another year or two, because we've sort of kicked this can down the road. Okay, I'm supportive, but I want to be very clear to the public about what is happening with this fully funded budget. Thank you.
Sure. Ms. Hollerback.
Mr. Fulmer, when we presented our budget over to the Board of Supervisors, we'd asked for not this scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Where did this scenario germinate from?
They identified with I'll say cutting the tax rate from the advertised tax rate down to I believe 97 cents, so keeping it level. And to do that, they had to reduce what was in the county administrator's budget for the schools. And with the additional state funding, they said, all right, you have the additional state funding. If we cut you to $4.6 million, there's a $2 million gap. And so I was attending actually a budget work session a couple weeks ago, and they asked us to look at that federal funds, knowing that we were getting $14 million in federal funds. And so they've identified items on their side that could be funded with from the federal funds that they're receiving, and asked us to look at it because they wanted to provide the $4.6 million, in the school board transfer, but at the same time, they wanted the school board to be able to fully fund their approved budget.
So are they aware of the scenario that Dr. Chase just referred to? And do they know that they too will also have to make those decisions as well once those funds run out? That's number one. And number two, is there any type of test that the federal government looks at when we tell them what we're spending our money on? Do we have to report back to them what it is that we're spending our money on? It's supposed to be one-time money that's going to help with COVID-related stuff. Are they going to look at it and say, we don't see how social workers are going to necessarily be something that's COVID-related for something that you were requiring before the pandemic even started?
So your first question, I can't say what they do or don't know on their side as far as the one-time versus recurring. I know the goal is to spend it on one time, and so I'm going to transition to your second question, which is some of these items are only one time, which we know, and some of these are additions in the budget that are definitely, we know they're eligible for reimbursement from the federal government. We do submit an application. We have to actually submit backup for each of our purchases, just like our other federal grants. And so we know these are eligible items, and some of them will be items that we don't need a year from now, 2 years from now, and some of them will be a decision we have to make that, social workers, they're a new item, so it's not an existing item that we've chosen, but social workers are something that, based from the discussions, I assume all of you will want to keep that in a year from now or 2 years from now.
And I apologize, I was
Yeah.
asking you to be a,
Yeah.
crystal ball reader. I guess what I was wondering was this discussed at the Board of Supervisors, on the dais, that the day that they were talking about, using federal funds versus, I just wonder if anybody actually threw it out there about what a consequence could be going forward. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Thank you.
All right, other comments? Ms. Yana?
My comment, actually a statement and then my comment, but for the past 3 years, I have worked hard to ensure that our staff do receive raises every year and that they are respected for the work they do. I think it's very important for the quality of the education for our students and quality of life for our staff, not only for making sure that we relieve the compression, but also for the mental health of the staff, especially now during this COVID year. What I think we talked about one time, Chris, if you could refresh your memory on assuring that we have like a minimum amount of dollars to operate, like to say, okay, for our next strategic plan for the next 3 years, that this is the minimum that we should receive to operate, instead of like every year, this is what we need. We should have that plan that we minimally say expect. So we're going to calculate that we're going to keep our counselors because we need them. We're going to keep our nurses because we need them. We're going to keep what we have right now. Yes, it's going to run out in '23, but this is what we need to operate. We are a county that have the funds. We should not be scrambling to pay for education for the students and for our teachers. They deserve better. Our students deserve better. Our parents deserve better. And so this is you fighting every single year for what you think we need. Dr. Kisner and the school board always fighting. We're done fighting. We need to set that strategic plan and say, this is what we need. And our teachers and our parents need to be in the boardroom and making sure that it's explained that way versus we're always trying to balance and cutting things out. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Ms. Randall, sure.
First of all, I will be supporting this budget this evening, but I wanted to say a big thank you to Dr. Warner and Ms. Hollerback and Ms. Healy for sitting on that FAB committee this year and working really hard with Chris and Dr. Kisner and leadership. I know Dr. Kisner had a very, all of his leadership gave him a very big budget and then pared it and sliced it and diced it down until we got something that we could work with, and then having the opportunity to add some things that we felt would be helpful, both not only for students and their families, but also our teaching staff as well. So I'm very proud of the work and all the different parts and pieces that came together to make that happen, and for the patience in teaching me a lot of parts of this too. I really thank you, Chris. I also would like to know, every year you give us trends of how money comes to us and by whom, and percentages and that sort of thing. And I'd be still very curious to have that percentage of dollars from state versus local. And I know this year it's a little different with the COVID money that we've received and stuff, but I'd still be very curious to see that trend. Is it getting wider? And so I would very much like to see that. But I am grateful that we can support this budget to do the things that it needs to do for our students, their families, and our educators. Thank you.
All right, any other comments? Dr. Chase.
Yeah, I want to second everybody who's thanked Chris for, Mr. Fulmer for all of his hard work. And I just want to piggyback a little bit. We've had speakers come talk about math teachers and, or about the math curriculum getting changed. And the skeptic or the cynic in me looks at curriculum changes as not being the real problem. And to me, the real problem in Virginia, as in the rest of the country, when it comes to how our students are doing in math, is having a teacher. And so, I'd like the state to stop messing with the curriculum and figure out a way to get us teachers. And I'd like our folks across the street to help us get teachers as well. I don't know how many parents realize that most high school math teachers in Stafford County teach an overload, and they have no planning periods, and they are grading and dealing with students and parents who are struggling. And so I will absolutely be supporting this budget. I am delighted that we're going to find a way to give teachers and service staff raises. But I have to say, I am absolutely disappointed that we're getting 3 times as much of an increase in funding from the state than we are from the county. And the gap in funding is just getting wider. And so I will not be surprised if our per pupil expenditure next year, that we drop even further than we have. And so I'm disappointed, but I am glad that we are going to be able to do something for our teachers. Thank you.
And I'll make a comment. Dr. Chase took exactly where I was going to go with. So, Mr. Fulmer, the $13.2 million from the state, and we have about approximately, I believe you said, a $4.6 million increase from the from our county. Is that approximately correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I am not the math major, everybody. I love rounding, so that's where I'll be. So yes, that $13.2 million from the state, obviously that is part of the 5% that was included in the governor's budget, correct?
Well, so the governor's budget had in the General Assembly budget, is that what you mean? And the final
Sure,
state budget?
the final approved
Yes.
budget.
Yes.
So, and then the other area, though, that our state funding increases significantly, I know everybody's waiting for it, is growth, is we have more students. Many parts of Virginia, talking to our colleagues, are losing students. Stafford is not suffering from that particular issue. So this year, approximately, what is our increase of students that we believe we will be bringing this year?
About, from this current year to next year, into FY22 is about 700 students.
Correct. So we have 700 students that we are predicting are coming. Many of us have spoken on this dais about, we know that parents were had to face decisions of whether to send potentially their younger students to start in a kindergarten or first grade class. Some may have made choices that decided to hold those students. I personally believe that the 700, and I am fine with that we are there, may end up being low. One thing, as Dr. Chase was just talking about, investing in the student and in math, I am also, as a non-math person, a very big advocate of small class sizes. I have fought for that for many years being up on this board. I believe that next year that is going to be a challenge for us as a school system. I'm not saying we're the only school system, but the school system I care the most about is the one I'm sitting right here. I would encourage our parents to look very closely at that. We are looking at schools that will be over capacity of 100%. One elementary, potentially 107, and let's just be honest, we don't know where every student is going to show up. So I too will be supporting this budget. I believe it meets the needs as we hope they will be, but I am going to say tonight, I believe that we are going to have much greater needs when we actually open in August. I believe that our numbers are going to be higher, and I believe that our class sizes are going to go up, which for me, and I certainly say to our summer learning, I am excited about those programs. However, I still believe larger class sizes, more students, and some of these learning is going to continue to be, and this is just more, I understand my speech on this, but I do believe that our growth has to be dealt with. And I believe as we get our kindergarten numbers, Dr. Kisner and I did discuss this, I would really like the board to be kept up to speed on what our numbers are looking like, especially in kindergarten, because many times we get those kindergartners late. I do believe a lot more parents this year are going to be on the early side, and those 5 growth positions may be gone by July 1, in my opinion. But I will be supporting this evening, but I just throw out those cautions because I do believe that is going to be a challenge for us next year, or next school year. Yes, Ms. Healy.
May I comment? I had not planned on commenting. I hate it when people come up and say, I hadn't planned on commenting, but I have a question for you, Mr. Fulmer. Our budget this year, is it based on our number of students, or it's based on the number of students that we had in the past? So what is the difference between the current year's budget and what it would have been if it had been on the number of students that we actually had? Or is there a difference, I should say?
So there is. I don't have it right in front of me. I can tell you so with the no loss funding that the state implemented is they're funding us based on their initial projections for 21 and 22. So our 22 budget is based on over 30,000 kids. I know that, and we might hit that, but we won't actually receive any additional state funding for growth unless we exceed that initial number that they had budgeted.
But are we not, in effect, the beneficiary of additional funding, even though we don't have the number of students by the hold harmless, I'll call it, provision?
Correct. The no loss funding is definitely, we're a beneficiary because of that.
Okay. I just want to, I think that's important because we actually received more money this year than we would have if it had been based on our, per student numbers. So the fact that we're going to have an increase next year, we should have, we in effect had an excess hypothetically this year. So I think that's important. And also, I just wanted to comment, I understand Dr. Chase is disappointed, but I am very pleased that we are able to fully fund this budget. I did not support this budget originally because I thought it was asking too much from this county in these very challenging financial times. And by the state stepping up and the federal government stepping up and providing these extra funds, if we are able to fully fund it, I'm going to be supporting it, and I'm not disappointed in the supervisors. I'm very pleased that they have allowed us to fund what we asked for. If we needed something else, we didn't ask for it. So we're able to do exactly what we asked for. I think, the raises, the enhancements, they're very well deserved. I've thought that all along, but I was just being more, I'm not sure, conservative in my views here. But now that we do have the funding, I think it's great. But this is only the second time in, my 22 years of doing budgets that we have been fully funded. So I think this is significant, and I'm very grateful that we're able to do, what this board set forth as what it wanted to do for the school system, because for 20 of those years that I've been here for budgets, we've had to cut. We would be here approving a budget and then sitting down and very tearfully deciding what we can't do. But we don't have to do that now. So I just want to thank the supervisors and thank the community, for the support, and say this is well deserved, what we're going to be able to do for our staff and for the programs. And I do want to thank you too, because I know how much you've done. You'll get started on next year's budget, and we'll take a couple days off, and when we meet next Monday, we'll probably be talking about it. But I'm not disappointed. I'm thrilled that we are able to approve a budget that calls for everything that we've asked for this year.
Madam Chair, can I have a question based on what, Madam Chair?
Sure,
I have a
go ahead.
question. Just came to mind after Ms. Healy mentioned about the difference in the budget if we have taken into consideration all the students. I was just wondering, and maybe the answer is already in my head, the students that went into private schools, did we count those students in our numbers?
We do not.
Do we have that number?
Of the exact number that went to private
Just-
schools, no.
No, okay. So we need to take that into consideration, right? At some point.
Right.
Okay.
Any other comments? I will say that the no-loss funding was something we started talking about last summer. I remember Mr. Fulmer and myself and placing some calls about how urgent that is for our schools. Please remember, even though that no loss sounds like, remember, we have had kids coming in and out of our schools throughout this school year. So I am actually very grateful to the General Assembly to give that ability, because some kids started, some kids have come back, a lot have come back this fourth semester. And so I'm glad that we've been able to retain that funding to meet the best needs for our kids. I still have concerns about next year, but with that, we have a motion on the table to approve the budget. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The fiscal year 22 school budget has been approved. Moving on to our information items, we have 5 items, sorry. Most of these are Mr. Cook. I'll let him come up and be in the wings. On our first information item is regarding some annual subscriptions for several technologies for the foundation of the Stafford County Public School Network. Are there any questions for Mr. Cook about these? Okay, hearing none. Let's move on to 12.02. This is for the contract for leased fiber optic network from Verizon Communications using the federal E-rate program. Are there any questions about this? All right, nobody jumping from their seats. The next one is the procurement 12.03 of network infrastructure and cabling for Rodney Thompson, Rocky Run, Grafton Village, and the Transportation Building, again using the federal E-rate program. Any questions? All right, and our final item regarding the federal E-rate is the approval of the procurement of network equipment for many schools using the federal E-rate program. Any questions about those specifically? Yes.
Could you tell me what the undiscounted price is for cost would be for the item 12.03? It's not listed there. The for discount price.
It looks like it's the 283, 273.
That's,
Yeah, so it would be twice that,
Okay.
a little bit more. It's down in the body of the,
oh, okay, there it
yeah,
is.
it's
Sorry.
283.
Okay, so it's about 50%. Thank you. I guess I was,
Nope, it's a better deal. We like it going in that direction,
Yes,
like
ma'am.
half cost than double the cost. All right. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Cook. Hearing none on that, so our final information item before closed session is a discussion regarding COVID-19 testing. I will turn this over first to Ms. Young and Dr. Chase. I will let you all decide how you want to take the lead.
You want me to take it? So I put this on the agenda. As information needing from Ms. Collette. So I just wanted to mention that the CDC and the VDH, they recommend implementing diagnostic testing and screening, and it's an additional layer to prevent, COVID in the schools wherever feasible. But testing does not replace mitigation practices, of course not, such as masking and physical distancing. However, when schools implement testing combined with other mitigation strategies, they can detect new cases to prevent outbreaks. So I think it's important that we reduce the risk from further transmission, so to protect the students, the teachers, and staff from COVID-19. I know VDH had offered free testing supplies, and they had some kind of pilot testing program, and I just wanted to know a little bit more on if we were planning on taking advantage of that and trying to get into that pilot, because I think it was free, I think. Yes, parents need to consent to have their children tested. And then the other question I had was actually a little further, which is getting our students vaccinated. I know we have a lot of athletes, we have a lot of 16-year-old and over students, and the fact that it's open now for 16 and older, I thought maybe we could work with clinics or not advertising for Patient First or Mary Washington, but just work with, some of the facilities in the neighborhood. If we can do it, we have nurses. We just talked about nursing, so our school nurses day. So I was just wondering if there's something that we could do like we did before with the athletes, and we had like what's it called again? Physicals. We did physicals. So it's something that just to think about, and I was wondering if Colette could just give us like an overview if she's with us still. I think I saw her earlier.
I believe so.
Oh, there's Dr. Kisner.
I'm going to recognize Dr. Kisner for him to take the lead and then allocate and share the wealth with some of our other members of the team.
Okay, thank you. So the question, there's a couple of questions I heard in Ms. Young's introduction. We're going to tonight just provide you the information that we have learned over the last few weeks. How we gathered the information was speaking to the Virginia Department of Health, talking to our local area health department, and trying to, and to be honest with you, you'll see in the presentation, out of 133 school systems, there are just 2 school systems that are doing an element of the COVID testing, and Colette will go over that. One of them, Arlington, their nurses are actually the nurses from the health department. So Galax is the only school system, and even there, they're doing it at a limited. I bring that up is because we didn't have a lot of information to learn from school systems in Virginia that are currently doing it, so we could share with you what we've learned from that experience, what has worked and what has not worked. So I do want to mention that. I do want to also, to Ms. Young's point, 16, she is correct, 16 and older, not just athletes, but anyone. There is, today we learned in our regional health department meeting, there is no shortage of COVID vaccines right now. There is many opportunities for anyone, not just 16 and 18, but anyone to schedule, and soon that you won't even have to schedule an appointment. There'll be clinics. We are doing outreach with the health department and some local organizations to let people know about where they could go for COVID vaccines. I also want to mention there was a question a couple weeks ago of a shortage of COVID testing, and the health department has made it very clear that in Stafford and our whole region, there is not a shortage of COVID testing. If people go to the Virginia Department of Health website and put in the area code, they will point you to places where you could get COVID testing. COVID testing's actually declined greatly as people get more vaccinations, which makes sense. But Colette has done the abundance of the work, so I'm going to ask her to please present.
Thank you, Dr. Kisner and members of the school board, Madam Chair. I had a presentation. I'm not sure if it's able to be put up on the screen. to discuss this issue. So there are two different types of diagnostic testing that can be performed in the school setting or as part of the pilot. It's diagnostic testing or screening testing. Diagnostic testing is really done to determine if an individual actually has COVID-19, and it's done on individuals who are symptomatic or who have had known close contact with somebody that is positive for COVID-19. This is done using a rapid antigen test, rapid testing. Then there is a screening testing that is really intended to identify asymptomatic people who may be contagious, so as to prevent further transmission of the virus. The Virginia Department of Education and the Virginia Department of Health have not made this a requirement for schools. In the batch testing or screening testing, what happens is you select a cohort of people that you want to screen for COVID-19. It could be like the third graders or all your athletes, or it could be all your freshmen. And you would go and do COVID swabs on approximately 35 per batch of people. So you'd go classroom to classroom, gather those samples. They would be sent off to a laboratory and screened. They're not identified individually. It is done in a batch. And then once that test is run, if someone is positive in that group, it's not easily identified, you will then quarantine that entire class and have them do PCR testing to determine who is the one that is positive, and isolate that person and then contact trace from that point forward. So it is not done. Right now what we're doing is, if we have a symptomatic person, we start the contact tracing, send them home, have them referred to their local provider or to testing sites to determine if they have COVID-19. If they're positive, we've identified who their close contacts are and we quarantine them immediately. So there's I believe there will be a slight lag between when the batch is reported and then the COVID testing is done. So that's part of it. The Virginia Department of Health also has given a checklist of things that need to be in place to do screening or testing in the school setting. And that would be an order by a physician that is provided with the testing. Also, we need to have a clinical laboratory improvement amendment waiver. We have one, it's called a CLIA waiver. It's in order to do any kind of lab testing, and it's provided by the Department of Health. We have one in order to do our blood sugar testing on our students with diabetes. So we have to amend that. There's an application for that. We need PPE that we have to provide a continuous stream of and ensure that we're going to have that PPE available to do the testing. There's a staff training component. There's about 6 modules that you have to go through in order to be able to do the testing. Consent is needed before you can do the testing on staff and students. And there is a form that the Virginia Department of Health has templated for us to be able to use, but we do need to have that written consent. Also, a process to notify the staff and classroom and in school of the positive results. So anybody that will be in the classroom with the person that's positive, we have to report it then to the health department. There is a biohazard waste component to doing this testing that would have to be addressed, and also plans for isolation and quarantine. Many of these items are already in place right now in our schools in order to manage students with symptoms of COVID-19. A big expense that is not covered by the grant for this being part of the pilot program is the biohazard waste disposal. I was researching how much it would be to get rid of that biohazard waste, and a 50-pound bag of biohazard waste costs about $185 per bag. And so we have 32 sites, and we have to be able to destroy that appropriately. So it's a little bit more entailed than you would think. Also, we need to be able to keep records of who has been trained, and also the records of the testing, and get that information to the health department in a timely fashion so that they can continue the contact tracing for the community area. The other piece is that the health department does have a testing site locator. I provided a link here for that as well that I can send to you with this PowerPoint presentation. You click on it, you enter your your zip code, I'm sorry, and it will give you where there are testing sites near you. I went through the testing site indicator for Stafford and found that we have 19 sites in our area available for testing. And that's for free testing and for children, and they also speak Spanish. Right now, the only two divisions are Arlington and Grayson County schools. Arlington County is a school division that uses health department nurses to staff their clinics, and they cover 2 to 3 schools at a time, and they have clinic assistants. It is not their health services department that is managing their testing. They are only doing diagnostic testing as part of this pilot program, and their emergency manager is overseeing the testing, using a third-party contracted group to come in and actually perform the testing and handle the logistics of getting that test to the laboratory in a timely fashion. Grayson County Public Schools is a division with 8 schools in it. They too are only performing diagnostic testing at this point in time. The Virginia School Nurses Association did a survey of school nurse coordinators to see who was participating in this pilot program, and these are the only 2 schools that are doing it that I'm aware of at this time. There's a couple of private schools that are doing, but that's it. And again, you know, there's a lot of logistics behind the scenes as far as getting that training done, making sure the sample is obtained appropriately, getting that sample to the laboratory in a timely fashion, having the correct supplies and in place to do that. And I'll take any questions. I think actually, Ms. Young, you had also mentioned about doing vaccine clinics for students, as we have done in the past. Historically, when we did the H1N1 clinic, we did a vaccine for that. And we also annually will do Tdap vaccine clinics for our families of rising 7th graders. However, the health department is very bogged down with the COVID vaccine clinics that they're running themselves, and they're not running our regular well child vaccine clinics that we would have for our rising 7th graders. And there are other vaccines now that have been added to the list of vaccines required for 7th grade and for 12th grade. And they're encouraging families to go to their healthcare provider to get their vaccines, or the local pharmacies to get those vaccines if they have health insurance. But they're very limited in their ability to vaccinate for well child checkups our students for the school entrance requirements. So I don't see us being able to run a vaccine clinic for COVID-19 at this time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that information, Colette. It's very informative. So one of the things, the reason why I was talking about the clinics is because of the equity variable here for some of these families that are working long hours and that don't have any health care. And that if we're trying to reach herd immunity, if we're trying to ensure that the majority of the individuals that are working, that are not vaccinated or can't get vaccinated, at least they may want their kids vaccinated, especially if they're over 16. But one of the things I wanted to also ask is that it is estimated that the transmission, asymptomatic, pre-symptomatic individual accounts for 50%. So how are we only doing temperature check to find out if somebody is asymptomatic? Like if they don't have a temperature, how do we know? How are we catching it? Like, what are we doing if we're not?
An asymptomatic person is not going to have any symptoms showing at all. So it's going to be difficult to catch them, but we're going to be looking at their their exposure to other people that have been positive, whether it's through their family, the community, or in school as well. But getting an asymptomatic person with a fever is a symptom, so that's not an asymptomatic person.
Right. So
and temperature check is not a valid determinant of COVID-19. It's a determinant of a fever and that there's some kind of illness going on, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily COVID-19.
Correct. So wouldn't screening testing help? And will that not provide confidence to parents that we have controlled measures working?
Not necessarily, Ms. Young, because that screening test is still only good for the date that the test was done. So you can be negative today and start symptoms and be positive tomorrow. Or you can be negative today and convert to positive and have no symptoms tomorrow. So any COVID testing is only good for the day that you're testing that person. It's not going to be effective for, it will help identify people, but it's not going to necessarily prevent exposures.
Yeah, so one question I had, and maybe somebody can answer this for me. We got an email about a volleyball match between two schools, and then we heard that the volleyball athletes don't wear masks while they play volleyball. Is that true?
That's accurate because as per the CDC guidance and the VDH guidance, athletes during strenuous activity can remove their mask during that strenuous activity, but once they go to the sidelines and sit together, they're to be masked and socially distanced.
Okay. So with contact tracing, if we have an asymptomatic athlete and they're playing against students from another team, from a different school, then we are potentially spreading this virus if we haven't got a handle on it. So I just wanted to clarify that, because that was something I had not realized that change had occurred before I got this email. So I think that's an important thing for, I as a parent would have wanted to know that was the case. And I really appreciate the added information about testing and what the school system's thoughts are on it and all of that. Just to piggyback off of that, as we're moving towards trying to bring as many students back to our schools as possible in the fall, if it's the will of the board, I would like to recommend that we post on our website the percent of staff at each school who've been vaccinated, the percentage of bus drivers who've been vaccinated, so that families have a sense that if their child is going to be in a particular school, what is the vaccination rate of the staff at that school. I don't know if it's the will of the board or not, but it's just something for me as a parent that I might want to know before I send my kid back to school in person.
Dr. Chase, as far as posting that information about vaccines is concerned, some of our staff have concerns about their confidentiality as far as their vaccine status is, so they're not reporting whether or not they've been vaccinated. Not all staff members have requested vaccine, but I do have numbers of staff members that are vaccinated fully, or at least partially vaccinated and awaiting their second vaccine as well.
Let me chime in there. I would be very much opposed to that. A lot of our students that are testing positive is because they got it from their parents. So if we want to provide information, we also have to understand that many of the children and staff members that are either quarantined because of contact or have tested positive is because of community spread that's not school-based driven. So, and one of the things I was kind of alluding about having 8 weeks left of school, we're seeing IHOP, people going to IHOP, group of students going. We're seeing sleepovers. We're seeing picnics. And so I'm not sure what we would gain by sharing with parents. It would also offer our staff who have gotten the vaccine to know what percentage of the students have gotten tested. So I just think it's a chilling effect. I'm not sure what we gained from that information.
Any other comments or questions for Ms. Healy?
I know we want to go home, but I just want to chime in. I would have an objection to that because as a parent, what would be important to me was whether my child's teacher had been vaccinated, and that's not, information is not going to be available in any event because of privacy matters. And just to have a percentage, to me, would not give me that sense of security. And given the flux in the staffing, particularly at the start of the school year, it would pretty much be impossible to keep that information accurate. So we wouldn't be able to guarantee the accuracy of the information, at least, at certain points, because we're always, changing staff, changing schools. Plus, I understand what you're saying in terms of allaying, potential fears, but I don't think we could do that, without having that specific information, which by law we're not allowed to do.
All right, Dr. Warner.
First of all, Colette, thank you, and Dr. Kisner for all that information. I've been doing a lot of research on testing in schools, and one of the things I found helpful was the idea of voluntary testing. But I recognize that there are certain logistical challenges with that. However, it's also an equity issue. Many of our students don't necessarily have access to those testing facilities, even if they know where they are. The one thing that we have to consider is that these new variants seem to be more likely to spread to younger people, so it is something that we may have to consider in the future. But I do recognize that there are both costs involved, there is training involved, there are logistical challenges, there's biohazardous waste that has to be dealt with, and there are chain of command of these tests that have to be followed so that we can ensure their accuracy. As far as, I have to agree with Ms. Healy. I'm not sure knowing the percentage of people who've been vaccinated is necessarily helpful, but I also think it could be detrimental because in many cases people say, oh, well, if 70% of us have been vaccinated, we don't need these mitigation strategies anymore. And the reality is that the CDC has been clear that the mitigation strategies are critical, that wearing a mask in these settings, as difficult as it may be, is important to prevent the spread and the social distancing and all the other things that we're doing. So I think that telling people what the percentages could be counterproductive in some ways. So I think it's something that right now it doesn't seem, I think screening would be too broad, and I'm not sure that the data that we get from it is as beneficial as we might like. Once they're symptomatic, then it's easy to say that they need to go for a test. The challenge is in those students who may be, or people who may be asymptomatic, because that's where the risk of spreading it would be. So I think that I have a hard time with the testing. I think there's a lot of pros and cons, but that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
All right, any other ones? If we could have the presentation that I know was prepared for this evening, Ms. Hall, if you wouldn't mind sending that to the board. I know once it's been sent to the board, it needs to be uploaded as well. You can put it up online first, but if you could also do a separate email to all the board members, including that presentation sometime tomorrow, that would be, then we have it directly. All right. Just in terms of our next meeting, and then I know we will go to closed session, we will be meeting on May 11th. Please note for board members that the meeting will begin 1 hour earlier as we begin to get through our advisory committee reports and other matters. So with that, do we have a motion?
Motion to go in,
Yep.
motion to go into closed session?
Second.
All right.
Madam Chairman, I think we are legally required to read the whole motion,
We are.
to read it into the record. It's on the updated agenda. The purpose of the meeting and the statute that permits it.
Madam Chair,
15.01. Go ahead.
I move that the school board convene a closed meeting in the absence of the superintendent to discuss a proposed contract addendum to the superintendent's contract as authorized by Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1 and Virginia Code Section 22.1-69.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. We are in closed session.